I'm happy to introduce Aksana Brovach, a Belarusian journalist with 15 years of experience who is currently working in exile as a freelance journalist. Aksana, very happy to meet you here. What are your first impressions of Voices Festival?
It's a very great opportunity to meet each other, to make contacts, to say hi to each other, to ask each other how are you, because journalists usually ask other people how are you, what your problem is, and now we can ask each other.
Okay, and I've mentioned that you are working now in exile, so can you tell us more about it, how it happened? So you've been working in Belarus in an oppressive regime. So please share with us those key moments that led to your exile.
I worked as a journalist for Republic newspaper, and in August 2020 Belarus faced protests against the regime because Lukashenko re-elected himself, and people wanted to show that they want new government. They want to recognize themselves as Belarusians who have a voice, and I was covering the protests. And after that, regime started to crush all the independent media, independent organization, and I decided to flee the country because I don't want to be in prison, unfortunately.
So you've been having threats?
Yes, because I spoke up against violence, to citizens, to journalists as well. So I received some threats from government. So if I will continue, I will be under persecution. So I decided not to put myself at risk and moved abroad.
Well, it is very brave of you that you are still working as a journalist, even if you're not working in your country. So can you tell us what are the challenges of working in exile?
In exile, you are like two persons in one. On one hand, I am a journalist. I am a Belarusian journalist for Belarusians inside Belarus. And second person is I am just person in exile. I am an expat, migrant in a foreign country. So I have to face all the challenges that people face in a foreign country. All this bureaucracy, all this foreign language, all this stuff. And at the same time, I face challenges as a journalist. How to continue, how to keep going when my media is labeled by the regime as an extremist media. It means consequences for those who follow it, who observe it in social media. How to protect my sources inside Belarus, because if you do interview with somebody from Belarus and you are an extremist and your media is an extremistic, you give this person ticket to the prison. And you have to think about all this James Bond stuff.
Okay.
No traces, no names, no cities, and all this stuff. And also you have to think how to make living, because after US changed this policy, their policy, you have to think where you find funding for your media. Many Belarusian medias lost their funding.
And your media didn't lose funding?
We lost a big part.
A big part. Okay, so it is scary that you not only have to protect yourself, but you also have to protect your sources. And now that you are working for Belarusian media, but in exile, does the government have anything to do with you? Can they do anything to you if you're not in Belarus?
So first of all, they blocked all the extremist media, and you can access it from Belarus only through VPN or through a special link which we post, or through YouTube, TikTok, something like that. But you cannot push the button subscribe or follow, because it means following an extremist organization, and it have consequences, criminal case. So answering your question, it is scary because of my colleagues in prison. We have 40 my colleagues in prison, journalists, and they are kind of hostages. And I have my father in the country. And I don't know, it's like giving sausage to a tiger.
So if you were to come back to Belarus, you would end up in prison too?
Yes, exactly.
And what motivates you to keep on going?
To be honest, as a person, I am really upset. Kind of, we are trying, we keep going, but we can do nothing to release our colleagues. But at the same time, it is kind of driver to me. So I am a voice of of my colleagues who are in prison. I'm sure they wanted to keep me going and keep working.
That's a very good motivation, and you don't have to be all alone in everything. So what do you think, what are your suggestions for international community? What can they do to make the life of journalists who are working in oppressive regimes easier? That's just like to wrap up all this, your last thought about that.
So we really appreciate all the solidarity which we receive from international community. But it's not enough because, you know, I know that we have every day a lot of news, and more important news than Belarusian political prisoners. But at the same time, I would appreciate if you find a space to share the story of Belarusian journalists in prison, to share a story about exiled journalists, to share the link or whatever, to donate.
Just to spread the word.
Yes, of course, because it's absolutely important to remind people that Belarus is not Russia. Yes. Belarusians are against the war in Ukraine, absolutely. And they cannot speak out loud because they are in a repressive regime. So we must be their voices as well.
Yes. Thank you very much. You are very brave. Thank you for this conversation. I hope you motivated some of other journalists to repost, to share news from Belarus, and that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.